Thursday crossover, Lions and Commanders getting ready for Saturday night's game, 8 o'clock Eastern on Fox. Yes, David, Tom Brady, Ben Johnson, and Lance Newmark all in the same building.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. How about this? Give me some matchups. What stands out for you on the Commanders side that maybe concerns you or that you like in terms of what you're seeing on the other side?
Yeah, I think what really stands out is, again, Marshawn Lattimore versus Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like you want to see best go against best, and I don't think Marshawn Lattimore is going to follow Amon-Ra so much as he's going to have his assignment. This look, it might be the X, and if Amon-Ra just happens to be the X every time they get into those looks, it's going to look like he's following him a little bit. So there's going to be a little bit of following, a little bit of not following, but I don't think he's going to be attached to his hip. So Mikey Sanders, still the rookie out of Michigan, has been a greatly impressive rookie cornerback for this team. Started off in the slot. They had to move him outside out of a necessity, and he blended into that outside position beautifully. Usually you see a rookie corner have to move positions, and you get a little concerned because that's a hard position to play your first year in the NFL already, but Mikey made it look easy, and it's been incredibly impressive. However, against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, his size did show up. It's really the first time where I noticed his size in a matchup, and it's not something I enjoyed seeing. Mikey's 5'8", but I keep telling people he plays like he's 6'2". You know what I mean? And he really does. So I need to see if that can kind of return in this game. I don't know if that was just, maybe rookie nerves, the first playoff game, or if the Buccaneers were doing something specifically. But whether it's Amon-Ra, whether it's Jameson Williams, or trying to help with, stopping the perimeter run and making a play there, need to see Mikey playing big again. And I'm confident that his confidence has never wavered, but I'm confident that we can see that version of Mikey again. And then Quan Martin, those three DBs, Quan Martin keeping the lid on defenses. The Washington Commanders are top 10 in preventing explosive passes against opponents, and I think Quan Martin has been a big reason why. Talking to Quan, he's very excited for this competition because he knows, if you want to be known as one of the best, you got to go up against the best, and you got to perform. So he's looking forward to the challenge this weekend. But I think that is going to be, as much as Jahmyr Gibbs is going to do, David Montgomery. I actually look back at the Lions' losses, and offensively, it's not like these players weren't getting numbers, right? You look back at the Lions' losses, guys are still getting numbers.
Oh yeah,
but the opposing defense is doing enough to prevent the Lions' numbers from taking over the tempo of the game. That's what the Commanders' defense has got to do, is prevent the Lions. They're going to produce, but don't let them produce so much that they just run you out of their own building.
No, I think that's all great stuff, and I think you're spot on a lot of things. I'll add in on the Lions side. I mean, the Kingsbury-Glenn matchup is interesting. Aaron Glenn has been getting, interviews for head coaching jobs again, just like Ben Johnson. Aaron has done an unbelievable job. Everybody's like, he's ready to be a head coach. He's really out-schemed the opposing team's OC, or even, Kevin O'Connell 2 weeks ago, the head coach. I mean, Aaron Glenn put on a show. And then, of course, Chris Shula kind of did what Aaron Glenn did last week. So, against Minnesota for the Rams, and that worked. They attacked Sam Darnold, which we could talk about all day here. But bottom line is, I just think Cliff Kingsbury's done such a great job there that now it's all right. How does Aaron Glenn, you're right, limit what Jaden Daniels can do with the football? Linebackers are, like I said, have been better. Pass rush has been okay. It was great against the Vikings because they sent a lot of people. They blitzed a lot of people. Will they be able to do that with Daniels' escapability? Darnold has none. Daniels has a lot. So what's the chess match between those two guys? I think is interesting. And also, I want to watch Frank Ragnow and Deron Payne, and I just think that's fun to watch. I think that's one of the best centers in the game. I know Deron got hurt the other night with the finger, but I like watching him play too. I just think he's a game wrecker at times. So I love that interior of the Commanders' D line. Lions interior of their O line's been good. So that'll be a fun matchup to watch. What do the Commanders do? How do the Commanders pull this off, David? What stands out that maybe is something that they do it well, they can spring the upset here?
Yeah, so I think the three things that the Commanders have to do, and I try to do this, Matt, and I pull no punches on it. I try to tell my listeners, if they do these three things, they will win. Like I tell you, I'm guaranteeing as much as I can guarantee as a show host that they do these three things. If they green check mark all three of these things, they will win. Those three things this week, no more than 60% of the Lions drives can produce touchdowns. And even 60% is iffy, right? Even 60%, you're kind of on the cusp. And this is where I'm putting myself at risk, because the Lions could get 60% touchdowns on 60% of their drives, do these other two things, and potentially still win because they're that good of a team. But I went back through and I looked at their losses. I looked at the close games that they had, the 1-score margin of victories that the Lions had, and that pretty much seems to be the sweet spot. If you let them score, if they get say 5 scoring possessions and 3 of them are touchdowns, you're probably going to lose. But if you can get that to 2 out of 5 or 3 out of 6 or 2 out of 4, whatever it is, then you have a better shot. So that's a big one. Gibbs and Montgomery, obviously massive parts of this game. What you can't do is let them take over the game. The Washington Commanders did a very good job against Bucky Irving and Rachaad White last week against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that's a good warm-up for this group. I really like Rachaad. I really like Bucky. I think Gibbs and Montgomery are just better. The line is probably a little bit better. So at least specific in some spots. Tristan Wirfs is all-pro left tackle, but I think it's not a copy paste. You can't just defend the Bucs run game and then copy paste it to the Lions. But if you can prevent Gibbs and Montgomery from just fully taking over, then that'll give you a fighting chance. And then you have to get the Commanders' ground game going besides Jane Daniels. That's something that's been missing. Brian Robinson has not been the same in really over like the last month. Chris Rodriguez is the other power back. He was inactive against the Buccaneers. They've got 4 running backs on their active roster, so usually one of them is inactive. Chris was the guy who's inactive. I kind of feel like they need to have him active because if B-Rob can't get it going for whatever reason, they need to try to get Chris Rodriguez in there because what teams don't do, this, Matt, they don't run against the Lions. However, statistically, and stats, can be deceiving, the Lions are actually giving up 4.1 yards up the middle, 4 yards per run on the perimeter. Some of that might be that they're dropping back in pass sets because they're leading games. Certainly context matters in those numbers, but the bottom line is if you can get the running backs involved as a part of this game on the Commanders' offensive side, it only makes things easier for Jaden and makes them more dangerous.
On Detroit's side, number one, and you're right, by the way, Austin Eckler's in-laws live here. Little known fact. So
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Nice little homecoming for him. Oh yeah. Here's what's interesting. I think for the Lions, it's simple. I mean, this crowd has got to be revved up, and they will be. I mean, you were in this building last year for the Tampa game. I just think rattling Daniels early, let's say there's let's say Commanders get the opening kick. Let's say there's a penalty, something. You get him pushed back, and you get that crowd revved up from the beginning, and you kind of just rattle this. He's been unrattleable, if that's even a word, all year. Yeah. But, man, this is the Ford Field. This is the second round. And just get in his face a little bit. I think the way that they just completely took Sam Darnold away from Jump Street 2 weeks ago is the same type of scenario. I'm not saying they're going to hold the Commanders out of the end zone. I mean, I don't think the Lions defense is going to do that this week. But that was something else. So I think that's very, very important. Jack Fox is a big weapon for this Lions team. And I know people are going to go, punter? Yes. Yeah. Field position. Keep making the Commanders go the length of the field. This is not Dan Fouts to Wes Chandler and John Jefferson here. Weird. We're recording very early, so my mind is all over the place. But this isn't even Theismann and Alvin Garrett and Art Monk. So, make him go the length of the field. If Jack Fox can do what he does, pin the Commanders back deep to where it's 1st and 92, and they got to go, from the 8-yard line, something like that. Field position, I think, is a factor in this game. And we talked about before, I just think the Lions safeties are so good with Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch. If those guys are doing what they're doing, not allowing the big plays, making the Commanders really have to work in the 3rd and longs, I think it'll be a good day for Detroit. But I'm not one to sit here and tell you, I'm stunned that the spread is 10. I think that's high, but I do get it. Detroit's rested. They're at home. And, but I'm still going to take the Lions to win. I'm not going to give you a score yet, but I don't know how big you are on predictions here, but how do you see it?
Bobby Wagner is a big question mark. I'm really nervous to see what Dan Quinn's going to say Thursday. I anticipate even if Bobby doesn't end up playing, he's going to say, well, we're going to take it right back, write down the games. I will work him out beforehand and all that stuff. But I think you have to understand why the Lions are favored, in this game. Not only all the stuff that you just said, but also the Commanders are coming off of a short week. You know what I mean? They played Sunday night. Now they're playing Saturday night. They've had to congest, their schedule. They basically missed their day off, so to speak. You know what I mean? So that's a big part of this. It's a long season, all that stuff. And what's really playing in the Commanders' favor right now, I think, is having that Week 14 bye. When the schedule came out, everybody saw that Week 14 bye, 3rd year in a row, by the way, that this franchise had a Week 14 bye. Everybody's going, oh, come on, that's ridiculous. You got to be kidding me. Now, you're kind of appreciative that you had that week 14 bye. Like the week off in December, you're kind of like, okay, I'm okay with that. We'll see, man. But the big thing for this game too, I mean, and Commanders fans know it. Like if the Commanders get the ball in a 1-score game with less than 5 minutes left, it's just kind of what they've done. 5 wins in a row, winning on the last drive, last possession, last play of the game, and it's kind of what they do. Eventually, there's going to be a game, Matt, where they don't pull it off. Commanders fans are just going to be hoping that this isn't that game, and Lions fans are going to be hoping that it is that game. But we'll see. I understand why the spread is what it is. I still think it's too big, but I understand why the spread is big. I just think that the Commanders, if you do go Lions on your picks, maybe don't take the points. Maybe just go money line on that. Or if you're a Commanders fan, definitely take those points if you're gonna put money on there. But look, you mentioned punters, man. Trust me, no Commanders fans are gonna scoff when you mention the punter because they know how valuable a punter can be. Tress Way is a legend around these parts.